Hi, and welcome to Beyond the Barracks, the podcast where service ends and the story begins. And today I've got Thea Davies, who is an absolutely awesome athlete, Ironman, competed for Wales. You can see all her medals behind her of everything she's achieved. She's blocking out most of them, so welcome.
Hello, thank you.
Yeah, so we'll jump straight into it then and get into the story. So what did your childhood look like then, and what was kind of your first job?
I had an epic childhood, like living in Pembrokeshire, in a small holding with mum and dad and my brother, and just outside doing things all the time, so we never really played much indoors, like with computers and TV. Not that there was many computer options back then, but it was always going out, making dens, going on little adventures. We had like a small little woodland that we could play in and make dens in the hedges, and it was just always outdoors. Did a bit of horse riding. We'd go on walks. It was just always on the go, really, always out and about, which was awesome. And as a family, but also like me and my brother would just do some little adventures around we had a little bit of land, so you could go off and make little dens and stuff. Yeah, so it was fun. Yeah, it was good. And then
I love that.
Yeah. And then like all my friends, we all went to a very rural school. Most of them were farmers, like from farming background. So you'd go and have adventures on their farms. So yeah, we're always up to stuff outdoors. Really, it was not I wasn't brought up in a city. It was a rural area in the country. So yeah, it was awesome.
So what after? So did you go to school and college, or what was your?
I went to the just a little rural school. I think at one stage there was only 16 kids in the school. So yeah, awesome. Like in the middle of a little valley called Grime Valley, near Newport Pems. And yeah, it was awesome. And then I went to secondary school then. Again, in relation to other schools, it was a very small school. And then from there, I actually went to college for a couple of years to get my qualification in health studies so that I could go to university to do physiotherapy. So I then went to Bristol UWE, so the University West of England in Bristol, and then I studied physio there. And then I actually, what did I do? Oh, before I started working, I actually went to West Africa in Ghana for 6 months and did some volunteer work there. Did a bit of everything, like teaching, helping out in the hospitals, bit of traveling as well. So that was awesome. And then I came back and started working in the Cardiff, in the Heath Hospital, doing various rotations within my junior kind of years of physiotherapy. And then I decided it was time to do some traveling. So I just quit and started in Asia, did like the Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam and Laos, and then went on to New Zealand. And then the plan was Australia and then come home. But I kind of got stuck in New Zealand. And so I just kind of got a working holiday visa, started working in a backpackers for a couple of months, kind of spent probably about 8-9 months here in New Zealand. Then I thought, right, I need to go back to the real world. So I came back to the UK and then started back into physio, but as a locum, because I wasn't quite sure where I wanted to be, what I wanted to do, whether I was going to come back to New Zealand. So I just went into locum in just because it was just easier and flexible, and also gave me a bit more freedom with regards to wanting to take time off to do adventures, I guess. But then about a year, well, was it a year? Maybe 6 months into that, I met Steve then out on a night out. It was Medics night, actually, in Cardiff on a Thursday night. So, it was quite a popular night out for all the medics and anyone that worked in the hospital, really. And he was out with some of his mates, and we just met and kind of clicked from there and caught up that weekend. And then that kind of built a relationship from there then. And he was obviously in the army, although I think he did try to tell me he was a teacher or something, I think, when I first met him. I don't know why.
Not a dolphin trainer then, he wasn't.
So, but I guess he was kind of a teacher, I guess, because he was an officer and was obviously helping to try, working with his team and, his platoon. But yeah, so he was in the army, and yeah, we just he was based in Chester, but he was originally from Cardiff, so it worked quite well because obviously I was based in Cardiff by this point, still locuming, and working for I had a job in Caerphilly actually, so that was pretty good. So I was able to stay in Cardiff, and yeah, so our relationship kind of just grew from there really, and just got used to getting into that army kind of lifestyle as a partner, which was completely different. Yeah, I don't really know. I just went into it. It just kind of happened, It was exciting. It was fun, Met all his mates up at, in the battalion, and yeah, had great days out, nights out, balls, functions, yeah, and got some really good friends from that. So it was fun. But yeah.
So the military, well, all of that. So do you think it was because you were from a small little town, if you like, in Wales, like that gave you the quest to want to go and explore the world before you settle down again?
Yeah, I don't know, because my family aren't very big travelers, I think the furthest my dad had gone was like Benidorm.
I thought you were going to say the Gower or something.
I think Mum, I can't remember on the top of my head, somewhere in where did she said went to somewhere very random. I can't remember now on the top of my head. So no one really, and where I was from, not many people did leave Pembrokeshire, and they often kind of went to school, went to college, and then they kind of went into trades locally or helped with the farms or helped take over businesses. So my dad had a butcher shop, and I don't know whether he thought that maybe myself and my brother would help and take over with the shop, but I did help him out and make burgers and sausages when I was younger for pocket money. But I never thought that I'd want to be a butcher, So I think I went to school, and then I left school after GCSEs, and I think going to college, it was just a bit more school was great, but you just get a bit more independence when you go to a college, and then you get to meet other people and works of life, and then you've got these opportunities a bit more. I started doing that health kind of science course that got me, I don't know, seeing an opportunity. And I guess then in order to do physiotherapy, I had to go to a city to do that. And then by going to Bristol again, it's, it was, it's not far from Wales, but, there was a mixture of people from all walks of life there. And I guess I just saw another side of, I saw how people had travelled, and that there was a bigger world out there from little Pembrokeshire. And it kind of just started from there. And then I don't really know why I suddenly decided to go to West Africa. That was my first big trip to Ghana. But I think I saw an opportunity with some company that, facilitates volunteers to go out. Although looking back now, it's probably quite a corrupt company. But anyway, we'll go into that. But, we got out there, and it wasn't what we thought, but we actually just went and sourced our own work to help the people there. So that was quite a big thing to do when you were kind of 21, never been, and then you suddenly kind of trying to, you go there, it's not what you're expecting, and then you try and make the most of it. And I don't know, but it kind of just gradually, and then I was like, well, I want to see more of the world now, but I needed to get some money first to fund that.
Money gets in the way of fun, doesn't it? As in not having it.
So then I got that opportunity in a job in Cardiff, with the in the Heath and the Cardiff and Vale NHS Trust. So that was awesome. And again, made some awesome friends there. But then it got to a point where again I was ready to go and do something again before I got old, I guess. It was the mentality back then. So yeah, that's when I went to obviously around Asia and came to New Zealand the first time. So
yeah, and that I guess you don't, once you get the travel bug, you don't really lose it, do you? And you start to get itchy feet.
Yeah, and I'm a person that can't sit still. In school I used to get into trouble because I was the one that's, looking out the window. Like even now I can't just look at the screen. I'm looking all around the room, It's like I find it hard to sit still. So I'm always a person and I'm always wanting to do stuff, but don't get me wrong, I do like sitting on my sofa with my blankie watching TV, but then I can only do that if it's raining or I've done something massive like this weekend. I've just done a 50k run, so I'm needing that rest. But otherwise I'd be I did go for a trail run just before actually in the dark.
Yeah, you never sit still. So me and Steve, in the cliche that most squaddies meet each other and their partners is on a night out. So you've alluded to how different military life was. So how did you settle into that when you moved into the barracks?
Oh, so I'd never actually moved into the barracks. So we decided that because of my work and stuff, and because his family and stuff were down in Cardiff, we were I was just gonna stay down there. And then he used to come on the weekends then, or when he wasn't working, sometimes he'd have weeks off or whatever. He'd come and hang out and stay. He'd stay at my flat. But then we actually ended up. We were like, there was just no room for me, him, all his gear in my little one-bed flat down in Cardiff Bay. So we decided then to buy a house together. So so we actually went and built a house with the company back then, and so that was like obviously towards the end. And we moved in Christmas 2011. So just before Christmas 2011, we moved in, rented out my flat, and but then in January, February, I think he went out to Kenya for a couple of weeks for pre-deployment training before going to Afghan, and then he went out into Afghan in March. I think it was around like the 9th or something, and then and then he was killed on May 26th. So it was very short-lived in that house, unfortunately. So it was kind of like we were starting to plan the future, and our first thing was let's get a house or something, like a base together. It's a bit bigger than my little flat, and then from there obviously we would probably kind of progress things, but our main priority at first was just to get a home together. But at this point we just wasn't sure what was happening with where he was going to get posted after Afghan, and it was just, and then with him going to Afghan, it was just easier for me to stay in Cardiff, where like all my friends were, for while he was, because his first tour I was in Cardiff, and then it was only like about a year later, 18 months that he went then on his second tour. So it was kind of just made sense to stay where, because of my career and my job and stuff. I really enjoyed it. So and it worked.
Yeah, no, that makes sense, doesn't it? Because moving to barracks and jumping around, it takes often the wives and stuff out of their careers, and then they're sort of left stranded. Yeah, especially when they go on tour as well.
Yeah, definitely. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I got some, awesome. The girls are awesome up there. That were living up there, and while he was on tour, I'd be like going up and hanging out, and they'd come down to me and hang out. But I think, I'm quite an independent person as well, and I wanted to, the job that I had at the time with Caerphilly Council, I was working in the community. It was kind of a long-term locum job, and to get that was really hard. And I have made some awesome friends there, which are still my friends to this day. And obviously they supported me so much when Steve did, when he died, that it was kind of like everything was kind of set up in a way to be, I don't know how to explain it without, I don't know, had I moved up there and then been in a job where I just started, I wouldn't have had that rapport with the people that I was working with, maybe. Whereas, I had a family unit with my work. So the support that I had during the, when Steve obviously heard the news, and then the support for me getting back to work was awesome. Like, they just kind of really facilitated and helped that. Whereas I think if I'd just been like, went and did a random job, I don't know, in Chester for a couple of weeks, I'd feel quite isolated. So yeah, so no,
Yeah, so
it was yeah. I think we did the right decision, and I think I'm glad that I was in Cardiff then when all this happened, because I was near my friends, my family. Yeah.
yeah, so March 2012 was when you got the tragic news. So
No, May. March they went out, and
yeah,
then May 26th then was when we had the news. And it's like, look back on that day now, ironically, like, I had all the girls staying with me, like the other, like Steve's mates, they were out in Afghanistan as well, and we all decided that weekend everyone was going to come to Cardiff, and we were going to have had a weekend together. Some arrived on the Friday, some, like, there was another one, she lived in Cardiff as well, and another one that lived in another town, so we all kind of just met in Cardiff. And I remember we were like walking down the bay on that Saturday, like, I think it was like late morning, lunchtime, and like a few of us mentioned, we haven't heard anything from the boys, because you could get text messages through their systems, or you could get like a phone call or an email, like a Bluey, an electronic Bluey and things like that. But none of us had received anything like that day, but you kind of think, oh no, oh gosh, that means that maybe something's happened, like Op Minimize is on, but never did I think that, yes, Op Minimize was on, and never did I think, it was on because of Steve. We got back to the house, we started getting ready to go. We were going to go to a comedy show that night with my team that I worked with as well in Caerphilly. So it was kind of a big thing. Like, we had quite a few of us were going out, and but yeah, just before then we had the news that Steve had, been killed, and it was just like, what the hell's just happened, It was just, there we are, like, making dinner, getting ready to go, and then suddenly it was just like, yeah, no, that's not happening, It was just and it was, I don't know, like, quite surreal. It was like a scene you'd see on, in a movie, you just think, oh, is this real? Is this like, oh no, maybe they got it wrong, or maybe he's injured, or nah, it was just, and that was just like, when my new, like, old life stopped, and then my new one was like, right, how am I going to deal with this kind of, I don't know, it's hard to explain it.
yeah, it was probably a godsend that everybody was around you, because I think, had you been alone, I know you had a support network around you, but just having the girls there,
Yeah.
must have
Yeah,
helped.
but like, it was, but then, like, this sounds awful, but that it was great to have them, but then, this sounds awful what I'm going to say, but I'll say it. I was like, why me? Why me? Like, why is this me? And then obviously, because, they told us about that, they released, told the family Op Minimize got turned off, so they all started to get their phone calls, and of course they were getting the phone calls because, the boys over there are like, they're devastated. They've just lost their colleague, their mate, and they just want to speak to someone home. And I was like, well, where's my phone call? Where's our phone call? What, like, hang on, and it was quite hard. And then, like, obviously I did speak to some of the guys at the time, and, it is hard, but you just kind of, you're like on autopilot. And it was just that, and then that was at that time that I was like, well, I need to tell people, because in the next kind of 24 hours, his name is going to be plastered all over, the news, the papers. And there were so many people that I didn't want them to find out in that way. And so it was just, it's a Saturday afternoon. It's like, May 26th. Was it a public holiday that weekend? I can't remember. Or was it the next week? Anyway, you know, it's a time of year where, you know, there's weddings happening. You know, I phoned one of my mates and she's at a wedding and she's like, "Hey, are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine." And I thought, I can't tell her now. She's like at a wedding, and but she could tell that there was something wrong. And obviously then I told her, and, you know, it was just horrible, like phoning people and just basically saying Steve's dead. And, you know, it was, and then my mum was up in London with my brother, and my brother was doing a music edition, and, you know, I phoned my mum and she's like walking down Oxford Street, you know, and I'm telling her Steve's been killed, and she's like in London down Oxford Street. She just broke down, but she said this lady just saw her obviously get upset about something, and she took her for a coffee. You know, it was, you know, that was quite nice to, you know, but it was just like everyone, it was just weird. And then I had to phone my dad, and he's down at home, and I don't know, it was just, yeah, it was just so many. I don't even know, I can't remember everyone I called, but
I think you and probably something none of us really appreciate is you had to deal with the grief, and then you had to go, oh my God, I need to phone everyone because it's going to be on the news tomorrow, and that had to be so much added pressure.
Yeah,
in a time when you don't need that pressure.
No, and but it was like I already knew what I needed to do. You know, it was like, I don't know, you know, I don't know. It was just like I just went into this autopilot, and I don't think it actually really hit me properly until like the girls went home, like maybe later on in the evening when things are quieting down, and I'm like in bed. I haven't had my phone call. I haven't had, you know, mum's arrived now from London. My dad's come up from Pembrokeshire, and I think then it all kind of went quiet because, you know, people were being told, and, you know, news got around, and then it was just kind of, whoa, hang on, what's happened, you know? And but there was just so many like questions, you know, you wanted to know like what had happened, where, like, you know, yeah, but you just didn't have any info like that at that time. It was, you know, they literally, you know, they've just had the news like he's passed, and they just need to tell us, you know. So, you know, you didn't even know like what happened, how did that happen, and, you know, like were the other guys okay, and things like that as well, you know. I don't know, it was just a very surreal time.
Yeah, and it's a very, unfortunately, during that war a lot of soldiers did die. But how did the military support you? Were they on
Oh,
point, or
I can't fault
still
like
lacking?
the Royal Welsh at all, you know. Like I still to this day, you know, it's been, what is it, it's, gosh, I keep getting I'm getting old now. I did have that, I did bump my head a few years ago. 13 years, so
Yeah,
13 years, and like I still, and I'm in New Zealand now, you know, I'm living here, I've been here for 10 years. Every year I get a card from the Royal Welsh, on the anniversary and also on remembrance. And okay, it's the same card they send every year, you know, and I know when, as soon as it arrives, what it is, but there's a handwritten message in the card every time. And it's just nice. Like, I'm still feel like I'm part of the family in a way. Like, they were so supportive from day one. Like, I haven't got a bad word to say about the army, like from my experience, you know, like, so that's what I've experienced. You know, I can't talk for other people, but for me, you know, don't think they could have done any more. And to keep me, you know, obviously Steve's, like, I'm still catch up with his friends now when I go back to the UK. You know, I keep in touch, and I keep in touch while I'm here, both the girls and the guys. And like on his 10th anniversary, I went back. I was back for that, and I met up with his mates. Some are still serving, some have left the military now, but we all met at in the Brecon Beacons, and we walked up Penavan. Had a port at the top. You know, it was just me and the boys. Like, it was great. It was so nice to still be a part of them, and they invited me to go, and then we all went out into Cardiff that evening, and had a meal and maybe 1 or 2 drinks after. But it was just really nice to still be a part, to still have those connections and those links, like, because they were lifelong friends, but the friendships can fizzle out, but I feel like those close friends of Steve and I, and we still friends to this day, and that's really, really nice. I guess with Facebook nowadays, maybe you don't chat as much as you would normally, because you can see what everyone's doing. So you just do the likes and you do a little comment, or like an emoji or whatever. And the army, I can't fault. Yeah, the Royal Welsh, and
that's good to hear. That's really good to hear.
I can't really think of there a few little things here and there, but also it's hard for them as well. It's that the last thing they want to do is come and knock on your door and tell you, oh, by the way, Steve's died. They don't want to be doing, or they don't want to do that. But as far as I'm concerned, they've been brilliant, and still are. And if they're always like, if you've got any issues or questions or anything, reach out. And it's good.
So you then kind of, what I can see is you turned your pain into more of a purpose. So you went out and did an incredible load of marathons, totaling 415 miles. That equal to, Steve was the 415th person to die in Afghanistan. How did that help you, to start to mend?
Yeah.
Or did you think it?
I don't know. Again, it was like I was in autopilot. It was like everything would just kind of, it just roll. Like, I don't know. It's hard to explain it, but at the repatriation at Bryce Norton, I think, is it one of the fathers they call them? Fathers? I'm not very good with priests and fathers. Anyway, one of the Padres, or whatever you call them. Ironically, he was called Father Steve. And we're waiting for the plane to come, and he goes, oh, I heard you interested, you started doing triathlons, because we were doing the Christmas just before they went on tour, all us white girls and wives and girlfriends, we all decided, oh, what should we do while the boys are away? So we said, oh, well, let's do a little triathlon, like a sprint triathlon. There was a girls triathlon in Chester in June 2012. So I was like, yeah, I'll do it. I'm keen. And there was a few others, and so they'd go up and we'd train, and I joined Cardiff Triathlon Club, and it was good. It kept me busy while he was away, got me going out, doing stuff, getting out on the bike, just meeting other people, just keeping fit and active, which was kind of, after traveling and stuff for a few years, it was good to get back fit, get my fitness back. And anyway, so when we were at the repatriation, he'd obviously heard that I'd been training with the girls and we're planning to do this triathlon. And he said, oh, in August, I'm going to watch the men's triathlon at Hyde Park, because it was the Olympics, it was the London Olympics that year. And he goes, oh, do you want to come with me? And I'm thinking, right, last week I was told Steve is being killed. We're waiting for him to come back, and now you're inviting me to go somewhere in August? I was a bit kind of like, what? I said, okay, well, get in touch nearer the time, and we'll see what's going on. Anyway, so time went on, and then I think it was the week before or something. I thought I hadn't heard from him, so I thought, oh, he's forgotten. He hasn't. It's one of those things, he's just making conversation. And anyway, suddenly I had a phone call, and he's like, oh, so you still want to come to the Olympics? And I was like, oh, well, yes, why not? So got Mum and I went up, got train tickets up, met him. Him and I went into Hyde Park, where they were doing the triathlon, because we had special access, and was there watching, I think the Brandley brothers were racing, and it was great hype, seeing London alive like that. Obviously I was still kind of grieving, and was it was all a bit kind of it was quite hard as well at times. But I think being in that hype, seeing people, like seeing the guy, like people racing, made me think, man, I need to do something. Like, I can't just now, I'm on my own. Steve's not coming back. I can't change it. But I need to live my life, and I need to be, doing stuff to keep me sane, I guess. People were giving me bottles of wine, and I was like, I'm not going down that route, And I remember sitting on the train on the way back, and that's when it came into my head about doing these running events. And, I thought, well, if I enter a couple of half marathons, a couple of marathons throughout the year, and I'll aim to cover 415 miles. And at the time, I was like, well, I knew I couldn't get 415 miles because of the way 13 miles and 20.
Oh yeah, the maths doesn't add up.
Never add it. But then I did I entered some random events, like one in Bermuda. Don't ask me why Bermuda, but it just sounded fun. It was like a Bermuda Triangle Challenge, they called it. Went over, a bit of a breakaway with my mum. One of Steve's mates that was serving with him in Afghan, he was actually currently in Washington or somewhere, I think, at the time, working. So he came and met me and ran as well. But there was like a 1 mile run on the Friday. There was like a 10 mile the next day. And so because of these little random events, it actually meant that the last mile I did in Chester, so I had to finish the last marathon, obviously, in Chester, because that's where he was based. The last mile was 415. It was just like, what's the coincidence in that? So it just, because I thought, I'll be doing the 415 miles like halfway through the marathon, but it was actually that last mile across that finish line was Steve's mile. And man, that was emotional. That was quite emotional, that was. But
yeah, wow. And then obviously, because it was in Chester, you probably had a load of people around.
Yeah, so I had loads of people running alongside, well, not alongside, but they were entered as well. But to be honest, all the events I did in that year, there was someone, whether it was one of Steve's mates, my mates, like even my mum. I remember I did a 50k like trail kind of country kind of run walk. Where was that? Salisbury, I think. But my mum like entered the like 10k walk, so there was always someone that entered these events as well, which was really nice. And like they would raise money. We were raising money for blind veterans at a time, because that was a charity that Steve supported as well. And at first it was, I'm just doing this really, raise a bit of money, help the charity. That's what Steve did. But yeah, and it was like I did it for me as well, to keep me busy and focused, get me out the house, get me places, just so I'm not just sitting and dwelling. But as time went on, people heard about it, more people supported, more people donated. Sorry, it's like super stormy here tonight, and the cat flaps flapping in the wind. What's happened?
Yeah, it's your winter, isn't it?
Yes, our winter here.
Yeah.
So, so it was just awesome. Like we got so many of us together. Some people had never ran before and they started training. It got people out. I'd have random people message me that I didn't even know, like strangers who's heard my story. And like I had one lady, I think her mum had passed or someone had passed, and she said that she read what I had been doing and that I'd inspired her to get up and enter like a 5k race and to get up and do something and not kind of sit and dwell, because like you can't bring them back. But I think the best thing to honor someone, and it's hard, it's easy for me to say it, but for me, I was lucky that I had the mentality that I could just put all of that into like what I was trying to achieve. But it is hard, because you do get days where I was like, I don't want to do this today. But then you're like, no, you're doing it. Go on, do it. You'll feel better after, and you get out there and do it. But
yeah, and that's amazing when you start, touching other people's lives. And I know, as you say, if you could change that day, you would, because you'd rather have them with you. But the amount of lives you probably touched and money that you've raised, at least brought some good out of the tragedy.
That's kind of what I was trying to achieve, is like trying to bring something good out of something so horrific. And like, so you know, and yeah, of course, people. I did get some criticism from some people, and it was sad. And I was thinking, why am I doing this? If I don't want to upset people along the way. But then I was thinking, well, if being like selfish or doing this brings 60 grand to a charity, well, I'm going to continue, and like I was kind of, and I will hands up and say, like, I did it for me as well because I had to. That was my therapy. I could have easily just gone drank wine every night, or and I didn't want to go down that route, and I worked in healthcare, I worked in mental health, and you can see people who've gone into those traps, and it's hard then to get back out. But like I think with my friends, my family, and I think also knowing what's like how Steve was and what he'd want me to do. He wouldn't want me sitting around dwelling at home, and he'd want me to be getting out there and doing something, and maybe not run so much. Or now, like all the Ironmans and stuff I've done as well, but then that's what I enjoy, and I got into it because of what happened, and it's just, that's me now. And
yeah, that's part of as you were saying earlier, that life ended abruptly, and then you had to create a completely different life. And I guess your triathlons and your fitness and what it's brought with travel, because you've been traveling to all your different countries doing triathlons, has brought you that life inadvertently, hasn't it?
I have moments where I'm like, oh, like it's hard, again, it's hard to explain. Obviously, of course, I would love him to be here, or but I've obviously learned now to live. He's always going to have a special part in my heart. Like, he's always going to be a part of me. I'm not going to let his memory die. I'm going to always remember him. I'll always talk about him, within me. I'm not going to go on and on and on, but he's always going to be a part of my life. He was an inspiration in my life. Like, he was a great person. He did charity, he support, when he went on his first tour and one of his guys got injured, he then started raising money and instigating things like that for blind veterans. And, that's the kind of person he was as well. And, I don't know. And I guess, of course I want to move on, and I am still me, myself, and I. And I've had relationships along the way, but they just haven't worked out for whatever reason. But again, I'm not going to settle for anyone. And I'm an independent person. Some people that struggle with that, and I am busy. I'm always doing this and that, but I'm quite happy just me, myself, and I've got great friends, family. Obviously, I'm living in New Zealand. It's not a bad place to be. I've had great opportunities along the way. I'm kind of if I get an opportunity, I'll do it if I can within reason. Like coming to Everest Base Camp with you in October.
It's going to be incredible. You're going to be dragging me up, but it's going to be incredible.
But I don't know. Like it's just the way I've decided. The way I live my life. Like I like to keep busy. I like to go on little adventures, even here in New Zealand. We just came back from a weekend. A few of us all went running, entered an event up in the Coromandel and went up by the coast and ran around there. But it was just nice to just go away and do stuff. And
yeah. So what would you say is your favourite challenge or triathlon or Ironman that you've done since leaving, the Barracks, if you like, in 2012? Because there's a lot, because you can see all those medals.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I think so. My first Ironman was here in New Zealand. I always said when I started getting into triathlons and I built it up, and I was like, right, I'm going to do an Ironman. I knew I was going to come back to New Zealand because in the back of my head, I was also thinking, I don't know, I need to get away from the UK for a bit. Like, I need to, all my friends were like settling down, having kids, things like that. And I kind of was like, just felt a little bit, no, I was never isolated. Don't get me, no, that's like the wrong word. I just didn't feel I knew I had friends here in New Zealand from a previous trip, from when I'd been here years ago. And I thought, look, and I remember being here as a backpacker, seeing these people do Ironman, going, what, what, you idiots? Like, why on earth would you want to do such a silly thing? I was managing a backpackers at the time. They were coming in with their bikes and lycra everywhere. And I was like, oh, what are these people, So when I got into triathlon, I was like, right, I've got to go back to New Zealand. I'm doing Ironman New Zealand. That's my first Ironman. And then obviously I had contacts. I came over for a few months before and trained here because obviously it was winter in the UK. So I did that, but then I went back and did Ironman Wales in 2014 as well. And then a few years later, I came back to New Zealand and obviously started living here. But I went back to Wales to do Ironman Wales in 2022. Oh gosh, all those years went into one because of COVID. But I think that was my favourite event because I'd been away living in New Zealand for I'd been here for like 7 years. My triathlon had got a lot bigger. By this point I'd done like 5 Ironmans, so I was a lot more aware of what to do. I knew like what the Welsh course was like, but to go home, there were friends doing it. A friend of mine also did Ironman that day as well. Seeing like all my old school friends and just my family being in Tenby, like it's just near home, and just living in New Zealand but going back there to do it and biking through all the little villages and passing like Carew Castle, Freshwater West Beach, and going through Saunders Foot, and it was just I won't forget the cheers, like, because that is just, if you're going to do an Ironman, you need to do Ironman Wales. It's just the atmosphere, the support you get, but also for it being my home town, I guess, just made it even better. So I think that probably was my, and I had an epic day, like racing day. I couldn't have asked for a better. It was like my best Ironman performance. I think I can say that. It's not my fastest because obviously you can't compare courses, but I think considering the elevation and stuff there, it was a great race and like loved it. So I think that one is that one is probably one of the most memorable, as well as the skate.
I like that. I like that. That bringing it home is going to be special, isn't it?
Yeah.
There is.
Yeah.
So, what advice would you give to others? Because grief is a massive subject, and at some point, all of us are going to have to go through it if we haven't already been through it. So, what one bit of advice could you give someone who's suffering at the moment?
Oh my God!
I know you've give lots of advice through the whole conversation, but what's one bit that you'll take away from it?
It's so hard because everyone is so different. But I think for me, that always got me through was what would Steve want me to do? Would he want me sitting around wasting my life when he's not going to come back? That definitely got me through the initial stages, because there were times I felt guilty, going and running in Bermuda, and but then I was like, no, life's got to carry. I don't know. It's a hard one, because it is a hard one. Because like I say, everyone's different, but I think it's just, for me, I just keep trying to think, okay, I think, what would I want people to do if I was the one that died? Like, I wouldn't want people, I'd want them to be still living life. Yes, of course, you want them to remember you, but I want them, I want them to be happy. I don't want them to be sad. I don't want them to miss out on opportunities in life. I think that's kind of how I looked at it. And also I didn't want people, I think the biggest thing is like my parents, they saw me go through that, and oh gosh, it's going to make me cry, I think. And I didn't want them to worry about me,
Yeah.
So I didn't want them to think of me sat up in Cardiff in my house on my own, in the house that me and Steve built, we didn't build it, but we got it built. we just moved into it, it wasn't, he hardly spent any time in it because he was on tour and training and back up getting ready to be deployed. We went on holiday. And I think I just needed to keep busy because I didn't want people to be worrying about me. I don't know. That's a hard question.
Yeah, no, it is, and I totally feel your pain, but I think the advice you gave were try and think about what your loved one would want for you, and I think everybody's loved one who's passed would never want us to be sat around moping and drinking and wasting their life because they couldn't live it. So I guess it resonates with me because that's how I guess I'm very similar to you. I try and live my life as much as I can, and I think that's the only way you can maybe respect them by living your life, isn't it? So yeah.
And it is, it is hard, because obviously, someone like for me to, I say enter the events, and things like that. But there's a lot of things you can do for yourself that it doesn't cost an arm and a leg to do. And, I remember I was like, I needed to get a nice new bike. So I just worked extra shifts just to, get it. And, there is a way, but even if you haven't got that, but you can still go and, okay, my aim is to run this, you can do it at home, you can do it with a group. There's so many groups out there and that's the other thing, the big thing that helped me as well was like Cardiff Triathlon Club. Like, it was like things were set up. It sounds horrible, but I don't know how to explain it, but it was like things had been set up before in preparation for what was going to happen. So maybe by me doing this, wives and girlfriends triathlon, it got me going to Cardiff Tri, starting training with them. And then so when Steve died, I'd already put my foot in the door. That I still had friends there. They kind of took me under their wing and got me back to the pool, got me out on the bike, got me running. So I got out the house, got mixing with people. So I think if I hadn't had I've got full Cardiff Tri saved. I definitely feel that they did save me in a way and helped me. I'll always be Cardiff Tri was my first triathlon club. I'll always be Cardiff Tri, and I think everyone there was just so supportive, and they had so many groups that you could do in a week. I could really do something with them every day if I wanted to. Between running, swimming, cycling. So I think that's the other thing is try and get involved with a group or something. Go get to meet other people when you don't be at home on your own dealing with that grief. And it could be awkward because maybe people don't know your story or what's happened, but it doesn't matter. You can tell them. People are very supportive nowadays and everyone's there to help everyone. So I think, if there's something that you really want to get interested in, whether it's walking, running, book club, sewing, whatever, just there's so many groups out there now that you can just join. And I think that helps is being around people. But sometimes I don't want to speak to anybody. I just want to be on my own. And that's okay. And that's fine.
Yeah. No, I they're perfect answers, really. And I think good sound advice, and grief is individual and you've just got to work through it. So there's not a time limit on it, is there?
Oh no, 13 years on, it's easier. But you still get your moments, there's little memories and anniversaries, and I think this year I struggled a little bit, and of course I miss Steve and I'd love to have him back, but I think for me there's times when I do feel lonely and because it's still me, myself and I'd love to have someone to share these experiences with, but like I said, I'm not gonna just I need, if I'm gonna be with someone, that it needs to be right, and I think I was just feeling a little bit lonely and a bit oh great, 13 years later I'm 42, still on my own, kind of thinking, why am I in New Zealand? My family's in UK. Should I be, I had a lot going on in my mind, where I want to be. But for now, New Zealand's definitely where I need to be. I've got a great job. I've got great friends here. I've got loads of adventures that I can get on with. Everyone's fitting well at home. Hopefully get my parents over here soon again. And, so for now it's working. But I think the grief is always there, but you learn to deal with it. But it's okay to have blips, now and again. It's like there's no, you don't need to be, it doesn't matter. Yeah, there's no time frame on that.
Yeah, exactly. So, who do you think, or did you have? I think we've all had loads of role models within our lives, and people have helped us when we need it. So who, if you could name one person who's been your biggest role model or your biggest support in your life?
Well, I knew you were going to ask me this question, and I've been trying to think about that all day. And I don't actually have anyone. I think it's just.
Okay. Well, who was your childhood hero then?
Well, like I'm not like I don't know what that actor's called, or that singer's called, or that athlete.
Yeah.
Like people talk about like who's winning Ironman. I'm like, I don't know who they are. I'm not I don't get into the whole celeb. I don't know.
You'd be good as a CP.
Pardon?
You'd be good as a bodyguard because you need to be unfazed by famous people.
I think it's just more a collection of experiences and times or stories that I've read, like being at the Olympics, watching that whole event being held in London, and then seeing the athletes racing, and I think going like Cardiff Tri, like being amongst that group where there were lots of different athletes, and I don't know, it's really hard. And then I've got other friends that have achieved certain things, and I don't really have.
I think you've got so many inspirational people in your life that it's hard.
Like my family, they were all kind of. We've never been phased about when shit happens, deal with it. Kind of, oh, you've fallen over, right? Get up, get on with it. It's. We've never really
growing up on a farm, I guess.
Yeah, it's like you can carry on bleeding. It's fine. Just keep going. We just. Yeah, I don't know. So I've never really gone, oh, I want to be that person. I've just looked.
That's not a bad thing, though, is it?
No, I don't.
Yes. So, is there anything that we should have talked about that we haven't, that you want to touch on, or are you happy where we are? That your tale has been told?
Yeah. Could mention I jump out of planes.
Oh, yeah. Thea is very crazy. Jumps out of perfectly good aeroplanes for fun, which is amazing.
There's some aeroplanes, and I'm glad I'm jumping out of them. I'm not landing in them. I can tell you that right now.
Yeah. Well, we've got the most dangerous aeroplane ride to do, apparently.
Oh, yeah?
When we go to Nepal. Yeah, which I'm not looking forward to, but yeah, maybe to a boat we'll all jump out. So, if people want to follow you, where can they find you? Just online?
On Instagram, just...
Yeah, as Thea Davies, aren't you? Nothing weird.
And I do post a lot, some of you, but I think I've just done it over the years, and I think living here in New Zealand, by posting what I'm doing, it sounds terrible, but it means I don't have to, people don't, you need to message and go, hey, what are you up to? What are you up to? Because they can see what I'm up to.
Yeah.
Sounds terrible.
Yeah.
But
you're always up to something crazy.
Yeah, so, you'll 1 minute see me on there running, walking, maybe giving a snuggle to my kitty cat, and then next minute maybe jumping out of a plane, or, just random views or whatever. I'll share inspirational stories and stuff with people and friends. But, yes, so I do post about what I'm up to on there, maybe sometimes a bit too much.
No, I love it. I love seeing what you're up to, because you're always too far away. You're over in New Zealand. Yeah, living the dream.
No, not at the moment. It's horrible and cold. It's pouring down the rain up there. Like, we went running around earlier, and it was horrible.
It's British summertime, and it's been raining for the last few days, but apparently we need the water.
Yeah. So. But we had ice this morning. It was icy.
Oh.
But we'll soon have summer, and you guys will have winter. Well, when I come back, I'll be going into.
I love New Zealand. I absolutely love it. Yeah, jealous. So the podcast is called Beyond the Barracks, so it's going to mean something different to you than most of my guests. So what do you think it means to you?
I guess it's just how I guess for some, I don't know, because I guess again everyone's different when they leave, like the army or the army lifestyle. Or I guess with me, obviously, that life stopped. I wasn't living in it, but I still, I'm still friends with the friends that I had then. Steve's friends. And I guess I'll never forget that time. I'll never forget Steve. I'll never forget what happened. But life carries on after that. But you still carry. It's hard to explain, but I don't really know how to answer that. It's just kind of. I've always got that army part of me, obviously, and that experience among living as a partner of a serving soldier. And like I don't have that kind of side, it's not like I go to the events and things anymore, but I'm still in touch with like a lot of Steve's friends, although a lot of them have now left. There's a couple that's still serving. And then some of the girls that I was friends with at the time, I'm still in touch with them, and so we still got that little bit of a connection. And then there's a couple of Steve's colleagues that kind of still keep in touch now and again. So I always feel like I'm still, like I said, with the battalion, I'll get my cards and they reach out now and again, and it's quite nice. I'm still kind of part of that family, but not directly, if you know what I mean. Not like in there.
I think that's really nice that they're still involved, and I think I love the fact that you feel the same as most veterans. You've got that military side that you'll never leave behind, but you're moving forward with your life, which we all have to. Which is it's nice, and it's nice that it feels the same for you as being connected in as a family member as opposed to being in it. So
because it was hard at the start, when I was, obviously the battalion life continued for everyone else, and obviously I wasn't going to those balls or this and that, or I went to a couple, and I've been to a couple here in New Zealand because I've got some friends in the military, so I still have those kind of little experiences now and again. I actually went to an Air Force ball because one of my friends is in the Air Force, so I still experience sometimes though that kind of side of it. I guess, but as time goes on, you get further away from those, and but I'll never forget that. I always still feel a part of the royal family. It's probably not the way you want a royal family. What am I talking about? The royal family? I mean, the Royal Welsh.
Yeah,
it was 7 p.m. here now. I still feel a part of that family. It's not the way I want it to be. Losing it. So Steve, but I'm lucky to have a support. Yeah, that they've been supportive over the years. Yeah. So cool.
Well, thanks for coming on. I'm sure that there'll be some people out there that really need to hear. Well, everyone should listen to your story, but that will really help and resonate. So it's brilliant, and thanks for coming on. And probably the next time I'll see you, it'll be in Kathmandu.
Kathmandu.
Well,
getting ready to go to camp. Yeah, it won't be long now. I'm excited for that.
No.
But I would never have met you if it wasn't. It's like the amount of people that I've met as well along over the years, and all because of what's happened. It's obviously I'd love to have Steve back, but we know he's not coming back. But it's nice to know that I've built some really good friendships along the way that would never have happened. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming on. Yeah. We'll catch up offline.
Yes.
Yeah. Take care.
Bye.
See you later.